So for a long time, Norwich City have been considered one of the prime candidates for promotion in the Championship when they've been at this level rather than in the Premier League. But this time round, it feels like a bit of a rebuild that's in store for Carrow Road after last season slumped to 13th place finish. There's been change off the field. Is David Wagner the right man to lead this rebuild? And what's in store for the club this season? Well, to discuss all these things and more, I'm delighted to be joined by Chris Reeve from the excellent Talk Norwich City. How are you, my man?
I'm good, thank you, Gabriel. Thank you very much. You summarised it well. Slumped to 13th. I've just managed to sort of eliminate that from my mind, and you've sort of injected it back into me. So
Here to help, Chris.
But no, I'm well, actually. All things considered, Norwich City. It's a little bit concerning at the moment, I have to say. So I'm hoping for some good news with regards to some more incomings over the coming weeks before the season starts, because at the minute we look miles off it.
Yeah, well, I'm sure we'll get into that. Just before we get started, we're covering all 72 clubs across the EFL between mid-June and mid-July. Already a few uploaded onto YouTube and Spotify, so go check those out once you're done with this one. And if you're watching this on those platforms, you can also give us a subscribe, because that would help us out a lot.
Chris, Gabriel, you're not covering that dodgy team in blue and white down the road, are you?
I covered them the other day, unfortunately.
Oh, for God's sake, right, that's it. Let's finish.
The one that's in danger of overtaking Norwich City next season and is looking in a better structural.
We're no longer friends. We're no longer friends.
I knew it's like that fish, like that little fish emoji. No, I really appreciate your time, Chris. Thank you so much for joining us. How do you reflect on the disappointment of the last couple of seasons?
It's just sad, really, because we've had so many chances of not just Premier League survival, but progression as well, in terms of where the club was with regards to the movement, the mission, the fan feeling, the personnel behind the scenes, the oomph, the energy. It's all been sapped out of the club. It really has. And, it's safe to say that things have gone stale at Norwich City, and big changes needed this summer, big changes on the way. We're getting that because, of course, since we last spoke, Stuart Webber, our sporting director, has announced that he's going to be leaving the football club. That could be any time, or it could be towards the beginning of next year, just after that. So those big changes are happening. But with regards to reflecting on the last two seasons, don't get me wrong, it's been fun getting promoted again, but we weren't there, right? We got promoted during the COVID times. And so everyone knows us in the EFL as the yo-yo club, the Premier League team with the yo-yo club. And actually the yo-yo thing is actually quite fun. Winning the league every other season is quite fun. But when you don't feel the fun because we weren't there in person, it really sucks, because we've been embarrassed a couple of times in the Premier League. Both times under Daniel Farker, we were just absolutely miserable. Don't get me wrong, we didn't spend a lot of money in our first season, but in our second season, it was just so poor in every department. And look, we're now in this position where we need those big changes before the fans can really truly get behind us again.
I refuse to believe that you weren't having fun in the 2021 season when you had your sailor's cap on and doing that song. Yeah, I think you were having a bit of fun then, Chris.
We weren't in the stadium, is my point.
Yeah,
right?
I get.
Yeah, it feels different, but you're right. It was a great season. I don't remember much of it though, because I was probably drunk on camera half the time on Talk Norwich City. So,
yeah, we could tell. No, I'm only joking. No, I think it obviously feels like a big rebuild, and I guess Norwich at the moment pinning a lot of their hopes on Mark Atanasio, or the Atanasio, should I say, sort of being quite a big part of the rebuild, because obviously Gillian Smith and Michael Jones, they've got a shelf life in how much further they can go with Norwich City. Any movement on that score?
No, none at all. I've been told it's still illegal, whatever that means. Obviously, these things take time. And the analogy is, how long does it take you to move properties, right? There's a lot of paperwork to go through, and imagine that times 200 with regards to massive football clubs. So, these things take time. But look, I can't deny the fact that it has gone quiet. It has been a little bit concerning, but at a recent fan forum event, Zoe Webber confirmed that nothing's changed with regards to their interest, with regards to how much they want to get involved in the football club, with regards to what they're already doing, with regards to the data side of things, the scouting side of things, the infrastructure side of things. Mark Atanasio is very much involved in recruiting the new sporting director as well. So yeah, that excitement is still to come. I guess it's just been a little bit more dragged out than we would have liked. And as we've spoken at the start about that dodgy team in blue and white down the road, those guys now coming up with all of their American money, it's maybe made us be a bit like, oh, come on, we need to hurry up here, because we can sort of feel them a little bit over our shoulders, and it's like, oh, it's a bit concerning.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure
like a Dementor, I suppose. I don't know if you're a Harry Potter fan, but like a Dementor that's creeping up behind you.
Yeah, very much. Yeah, a Dementor's. Yeah, I agree. Well done. We can be friends again now. Well done.
Okay. No, that's I definitely think that sort of thing definitely impacts the dynamics. I guess the appointment of a sporting director is probably going to happen too late in the summer for it to have a huge impact in terms of the dealing. So I just wonder who's keeping things ticking over now. Is David Wagner making the phone calls? Who's the one in the office?
Well, I'm of the faith, and we have been told that Stuart Webber is still doing his job to the fullest of his ability. It's a bit complicated when you've handed in your notice. He's handed in his notice in March this year. He's the one making signings. He's the one making calls. But I have to admit, it does feel a bit like, oh, I'm not sure. And that's because of the links to Leeds. And so I think, don't get me wrong, if Stuart's going to do his job here and then, go abroad, I won't be so worried. But I have to admit, if he ends up at Leeds, I'm going to be a bit like, that doesn't feel good to me. But look, the proof is in the pudding, right? And quite frankly, I think he's lost a lot of his stock with regards to the shocking recruitment, really, over the last couple of seasons. And so he actually really does need to perform to get a top job. And so actually maybe that will play in our favour. I'm not sure. But look, there's people inside Norwich City that know how to do transfers, know how to do negotiations, understand the way that the football club works. Zoe Webber, a name that we've mentioned, very much, not the type to be in the spotlight, but is definitely the one that's, pulling a lot of strings behind the scenes. Is involved in various different football governing bodies as well, and was actually there before Stuart. And I think people don't realise that. And so, because David McNally brought her in. So yeah, she was there beforehand, and she's got an incredible amount of football knowledge and experience. And so I'm not particularly worried, but at the same time, we need that change as soon as possible now. Because, as you say, is it really going to have an impact? No. And so that's why I'm not particularly confident, to say the least, about this upcoming season.
Sure, yeah. I think this is the thing that I feel about Norwich City, where they're at a stage now where they almost need a season a bit like the one they had in 17-18, where you didn't actually achieve anything too special, but you actually developed, I think Jamal Lewis came into the team that year, started to develop a bit of a style of play, made a bit of progress, and then shot up the following season. It feels like Norwich need that kind of year, even if the one fans want is probably a bit more like the 18-19 season where you won the league and everything was amazing. That just feels, like you said at the beginning, that feels so far off right now. Yeah,
without a doubt. There's not a chance that I think that I believe hand on heart will be anywhere near promotion this season. I don't. I think you're very well researched and educated with regards to your opinion. I think that we do need a season like that, like you've said. I think a season to get back to where we were again, and not just in the football side of things, but with the fans as well. We've really lost our way in terms of what Norwich City actually are and what we're really about.
What are
I
Norwich
think
City really about for you then, Chris?
well, mate, Norwich have always been about punching above their weight, right? You know, we don't have the biggest stadium, but we always sell out, of course. Delia's bit down to her last peanuts. And Norwich City are a team that in Stuart Webber's first seasons was really, really honing in on developing and giving opportunities to young players.
Yeah.
We were finding some gems in the market and they were combining so well.
Yeah.
And it was almost like that sort of, and then obviously, that really sort of came into a big sort of crescendo, if you like, when we played Manchester City at home, that iconic win in the Premier League, where it's very much a David versus Goliath situation. And at the moment, that sort of fight and that Norwich City way of, playing football our way, it's all gone out the window. Not helped by Dean Smith's absolutely shoddy coaching and training. We're miles behind it in terms of our fitness since he's come in. But they were so fit under Daniel Farker, and the list goes on. So that's what Norwich City should be. We should be a fit football team that is punching above our weight, trying to play football our way, and being loud and proud as a supporter base. Because of that, we're a club. We're one of the few clubs left, in my opinion, with so much soul. So many clubs have sold their soul to the Premier League devil. And don't get me wrong, it's gone against us in terms of financials. But yeah, I hope that we can get back there one day.
Yeah, I certainly hope so too. I think that one thing you meant about in terms of physical fitness there, and the fact that you were a fit side under Daniel Farker. I also think that one thing Connor Southwell has often brought up in the past was that mentally this team has looked drained as well by the last few seasons, certainly through the last 4 seasons. And I just wonder, do you feel as though that there needs to be a bit of a rebuild in terms of the personnel and fresh energy coming in, a bit like you had in 2020, where the club, after relegation, the club brought in a lot of new players, but the challenge at the moment is offloading players because you've already got quite a big squad, probably on wages that not everyone's going to take players up on, and therefore there's a challenge because you've got to, in order to bring those new players in, you've also got to offload players. So it's a tricky one, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's the position that we're in at the moment. Really, we're heavily reliant upon selling Mila Rashica, Big Andy, or Andrew Balotelli, as most people know him as.
Aaron's.
Maxi Aarons as well, another player that we should get good money for. But without that money, we can't have that squad overhaul that fans want and are demanding. We just can't do it. And the other thing, to put it in plain and simple English, is if you play shit, no one's going to want to buy you, right? And so we are just in this position now where no one really shone last season at all, to be honest with you. Maybe I think Gabriel Sara had fits and starts.
Nunes at one stage.
Penny McLean, Nunes a little bit, but just sort of fell off towards the back of the season. Angus Gunn. But no one really stood out and went, this is who I am and I deserve a Premier League move. And so, yeah, you're right in saying, Norwich City need a squad overhaul. We're not going to get a squad overhaul again, even though we desperately need one. And that is, again, another reason why, without the Atanasios coming in and splashing the cash, Norwich City are a club where I would say mid-table mediocrity beckons for us next season.
Yeah, I certainly can't argue with that at the moment. Who are the ones that are giving you some optimism then, Chris? Who are the players that you feel like you can build around next season?
Well, look, it's early in the window to be saying that, right? And at the minute, I must admit, I have been struggling to get excited about any of these signings coming in, and that's because they're all for free, right? And I know that's maybe a bit of a cheap thing to say, but until you start spending some money, it's quite difficult, in my opinion, to get excited about these players coming in and whether they can be a big differentiator. The player that I'm so excited about next season is Gabriel Sara. Of course, we already have him. He settled in last season. He's brought his dogs over from Brazil, bless him. And he's now got himself into a place where I think really this could be his springboard season. one of ilk of perhaps Emi Buendia or something that then gets him a bigger move. He's going to be our star man this season, I predict. But maybe I've been a bit harsh on the free boys. We've brought in Jack Stacey from Bournemouth. He is on paper a very solid signing. I think Ashley Barnes from Burnley is a good signing. I think he gets a bad rap because of, I guess, how he is on the pitch, but his experience, his leadership, his steel, and he's done it twice before, and he's not going to want to come here to lose. We've beaten another handful of clubs to secure his signature. So I think for me, those are the two players that stand out so far. But you never know. Like, we've signed this Borja Sainz geezer from Turkey, and perhaps he might be the new Emi Buendia. I don't know. Yeah. But at the moment, I'm in a place, and I know for a fact that a lot of Norwich City fans are in a place where we no longer really trust the recruitment to be right, because we've got it so wrong for a couple of seasons now. So, yeah, concerning.
Yeah, I think Borja Sanz is probably one of the signings that I do have some excitement about because I did a little bit of digging before we went on air, and he's someone who's supposed to be very quick, and he does very well, I think, on the dribbling metrics. Yeah. So hopefully that can translate. I know you're not much of an XG data guy. I'm not a huge one either, but I sort of appreciate its relevance. But
dribbles are relevant. Dribbles are relevant.
So that's an exciting signing. Hopefully he can translate well.
Yeah, absolutely. As I say, he could be the man to make a difference, but Norwich are way off it at the moment in terms of having the right players in place to. I seriously mean this, right? I like to think that I'm one of the most optimistic Norwich fans out there. I am concerned going into this season because the Championship is the strongest Championship I have ever seen. And what annoys me so much is that last season it was the worst Championship I've ever seen in terms of the quality. There was only one standout in Burnley. Everyone else was bang average. And what does that make us? I know a lot of fans will be saying, I'll tell you what it makes us, a bit shit. So Norwich City needs to do much better. And I don't think we're going to be able to muscle in on a lot of these teams. You look at Leicester. I tweeted the other day, I've got a funny feeling they're going to walk the league. Southampton, they've just brought in the Norfolk Cafu. He will get those boys going. You've got some really, Leeds. They're not here to muck about, as much as it's going to pain me because Daniel Farke's in charge. So, yeah, I am concerned. So I hope these boys that come in will prove the difference, but I'm not confident.
Are you confident of keeping Andrew Balotelli, or at least getting a good? No, you think he'll go?
No, I'm not.
How much can you get for him?
It's a good question. I think he's probably worth about 10 million, maybe, and I think that we'll get maybe 8 with then the add-ons. Maybe I'm being a bit harsh there. Hopefully, it's 10 with add-ons as well. I guess the good thing in terms of the financials is we did get a very small cut of the James Maddison sale to Tottenham, so that's good news for Norwich City.
What was the percentage on that? Because 40 million.
Well, we've ended up with 5 million. So if your maths is better than mine, so we had a percentage sale on that one. But yeah, no, I think we can get some good money for Andrew Balotelli. I think that these things are going to happen late on in the window, and so it is concerning because we're going to have to bring in a lot of players late. I looked at us against Barnet, and I know it was the first pre-season friendly, but I am worried, honestly.
Was it the best 11 against Barnet, or was there a lot?
No, don't get me wrong, it wasn't the best 11, and obviously there'll be a lot of comings and goings, throughout the summer. But a lot of those boys are the same. They're obviously the same bodies, with the same mindset, the same scars. So yeah, it's like Stuart Webber and everyone involved needs to make sure that we are much better prepared for this season. And so far, don't get me wrong, I do think they've been smart with regards to their work in the free market. I do think we've got some really solid players on free signings, and that's good. And Norwich City desperately needed experienced players, desperately needed players that aren't here to just be passive and, not, I don't mean they don't care, but, I want players to have the devil in them. I want us to stop being nice Norwich City and start being nasty Norwich City. And I think that we could start to be that next season, which for me is what we should be doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Kenny McLean, I think, had a few injuries last season. Do you think that he's someone who, because previously he's been very consistent at this level, so is he someone that you feel could step things up a notch if you can get a full season out of him?
Yeah, look, I think he's a key ingredient to the Norwich City recipe, regardless of what we're trying to achieve. He's a player that, maybe just over a year and a half ago was getting a real bad rap with the Norwich City fans. He was definitely the scapegoat, in my opinion. It was really interesting to speak to him on the Talk Norwich City podcast to speak about, where he feels he's at and, about the fans and the relegation and Daniel Farke and all sorts of stuff. It was fascinating. And, you've seen it for Scotland. Kenny McLean, he's a hell of a player, right? And he really is, in the engine room, the heartbeat of that Norwich City team. And he's a leader. And in my humble opinion, all good teams in the Championship need a spine of leaders. Norwich City haven't had a spine of leaders in quite some time now. And I think Kenny is absolutely in the middle of that spine and can be that man. We've got Ashley Barnes up top, good, tick. We've got Kenny McLean in the middle of the park, good, tick. We probably need another centre-back. We've not got that. We've always got Timmy Krul if we need him as well. So, we have got that if we want it now, which is good. That is good news.
Yeah, I suppose that the centre-back position is an interesting one, Chris, because you mentioned that you're expecting Balotelli to go. You've still got Grant Hanley, who's technically still club captain. Him and Ben Gibson were the pairing when you won the title from this level 3 seasons ago.
Yeah.
And you've also signed Duffy, I think it is,
Yes.
Shane Duffy from Fulham on a free
Yes.
transfer. They're all very experienced centre-backs. I'm wondering if you want to give someone younger a bit of a ball playing type, possibly.
Do you know, I'm in this space now where I don't really care who and how, just make it happen. And if it's a young player, I'm happy. As long as they deliver, I'm happy. If it's an experienced player and we get one season out of them, I'm happy. This is why, the signing of Shane Duffy, I think that could be a good signing. It is a little bit concerning the lack of football that he's played. I don't know whether that'll impact him or not. Grant Hanley is more or less not going to feature for the majority of next season due to a big injury that he's got. I'd say that it possibly even could be curtains for him at Norwich City, to be honest. So yeah, there's a question there around
chance for Tomkinson in pre-season, possibly.
Yeah, maybe. I think I like Tomkinson. I think he needs another loan, to be honest. And actually, he's not the only young player at Norwich City that needs another loan. You could maybe say Adam Eder. You could maybe say Jonathan Rowe. There's a few players in there that probably need another year out on loan, but maybe Norwich City won't be able to afford to push them out on loan because we might have to rely on them. Look, if you sell Big Andy, Andrew Balotelli, I think we need one more to compete with Ben Gibson and Shane Duffy. I think that would be a healthy mix. We've obviously got Ballymumba back. I'm really excited about Bally. I know that you're a big Bally believer as well. He's a very, very good player, but again, is a player that excels at going forwards. But at this level versus where he was at with Plymouth, he's going to have to do a hell of a lot more defending. So,
just to add to what you said there, Chris, he'll be playing in a back four because Wagner's a 4-2-3-1 disciple. Plymouth Argyle is playing as a wing back, which obviously gives you a lot more attacking leeway.
Yeah, absolutely right. Yeah, you're exactly right. So it'll be interesting. There's honestly so many question marks. We could probably spend 2 hours on this stream talking about all of the the fires that Norwich City need to put out, and we probably won't be at the end of it, to be honest with you. Look, it's time for those players and the people behind the scenes at Norwich City to make it work, because we're at the point now where we're fed up of it. We need to see some progress again because we've really fell off in the last couple of seasons.
Yeah, absolutely. Chris, I feel like there's going to be a dystopian future where AI and robots have taken over the world in 1,000 years, and we're probably still going to be saying there's a striker in Adamida. Maybe if we give him out a loan, he might still come good. Because it feels like we've been sort of having that conversation for quite a long time now, Chris. And I just wonder, are we coming to a point where he needs to maybe start afresh somewhere else, possibly?
Yeah, maybe. Look, I think we're maybe a season away from that. I saw, I think Chris Sutton did a piece with the Pinkham the other day, talking about it wasn't just Adam Eder, it was Josh Sargent as well. You know, these players have come of age now. It's time to deliver. And it's as simple as that. The pressure is absolutely on. What I would say about Adam Eder is I feel sorry for him, because he's a player that if he was playing in a confident side, with a coach that nurtured him, that hadn't been chopped and changed mid-season. Adam has spent a lot of his time playing for Norwich City out wide, which is just not his position. He's obviously spent a lot of time playing second fiddle to Timu Pukki, which is tough for anyone.
Sure.
And at the back end of last season, it was so toxic at Carrow Road. And, you know, there are a couple of occasions where, you know, I think, well, there was definitely one where Adam missed a shot. It sort of, you know, Johnny Wilkinson over the bar, and the crowd booed him, and it was really, really bad. And so, look, I hope Norwich City fans can rally behind him next season. I hope that we can give him an opportunity to shine. But look, he's got to take it. He's the one out on the pitch, and you know, I'm fortunate enough to have conversations with, you know, Anel Hernandez, for example, who said to me he had a conversation in the gym the other week with Tim.
You go to the gym with Anel Hernandez?
You what, mate? Sorry?
You go to the conversation. Do you go to the gym with Anel Hernandez?
No. I don't go to the gym. I wish I did. I don't go to the gym with Anel. I don't go to the gym with Anel. But Anel spoke to me, and he said that him and Tim Krul were in the gym at the training ground, and they were looking at Adam Eder, and they were like, "God, I wish that we could be as built as him, as strong as him. His athleticism and his physicality, he's got it." But it's just.
What do they say about Adam Eder? That's enough about you, Chris.
Well, thank you, man. It's just his I guess his football intelligence, and his decision making, and I think if that improves, he could come good. And look, there's a reason why Norwich City have given him a 5-year contract, right? They've not given him one because he might make it, right? They clearly believe in him, and you know, there's people out there much more educated than me that would tell you the reasons why. But I've got hope for him still. I'm not giving up on Adam Eder, but the one that I am more concerned about is Josh Sargent. Yes, he did score. Yeah, because he scored a lot of goals before he went to the World Cup, because he wanted to get in the World Cup team, and then he got injured, and then again just completely fell off. He's been given the number 9 jersey at Norwich City next season, and you know, it's one that needs to deliver goals consistently. And I am hopeful again for Josh, but I'm more concerned because of the price tag he came here on. And I think a lot of Norwich City fans are very quick to slag off Stuart Webber, but they probably don't realise and think about that Daniel Farke was in fact the man that pushed the move for Josh Sargent, despite the fact that we were warned to not sign him on 2 occasions. So yeah, I could go on and on about loads of things on that, but I probably shouldn't. There's lots of players that, you know, there's question marks over, not just those 2 boys, but I think regardless of all of that stuff, it's important that Norwich City fans get behind the boys next season, and that goes for everyone. It really needs to be a clean slate.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but certainly big seasons ahead, I think it's fair to say, for Adam Eder and Josh Sargent with Timu Pukki going. So hopefully they can step up. Anyone coming through the academy that you're excited about, Chris, that I should be keeping an eye
on? Maybe. Not really.
How's Johnny Rowe getting on at the moment?
Well, Johnny Rowe, I don't really count Johnny Rowe as academy now, because he's in the first team mix. Johnny Rowe, let's have a go, as I like to say. He scored against the big time of Barnet in the week. He is fast, but there's a lot of things that he needs to improve as well. He'll know that. But no, look, I've not heard a lot of good things about the boys coming through the ranks at the moment, to be honest with you. So I'm
That's
not
a bit.
best placed. I'm not best placed to answer that, and that's the point, right? That's the concerning thing. Going back to the Norwich City way, we were excited about these boys coming through, but I look over the shoulders of the first team now, and I think, who's good enough to maybe sort of get in there? I can't really pinpoint someone that I'm particularly buzzing about, to be honest with you. But maybe it's because you're asking me and not someone else, but. I think that is a bit of an indicator on where Norwich City are at now, sadly.
But you do look at it though, Chris. You've got a huge catchment area. You're a one-club city, but in terms of professional clubs.
Yeah, top status academy, best training facility. I'd say that we're probably in the top 3 training facilities in the Championship, but we're probably in the Premier League mix as well. And so we can attract top talent, but now we've got to start again because of what's happened. So it could take a few years to see sort of the fruits of our labour. Now we've got these top tier training facilities.
Yeah, it's slightly strange there. I don't quite understand why it hasn't quite translated. All these strengths that you've got in your favour isn't quite translating at the moment. But maybe it's just, I don't know what it is, to be honest.
Honestly, it could be as simple as it just needs a fresh pair of eyes and fresh energy in a new sporting director to come in to galvanise the group. That's the players, that's the staff, that's the fans. Get everyone together, start putting these bloody fires out, and maybe that will be what it takes. But a key component is the fans. We're if the fans are in a place where we are singing our hearts out and backing the boys, and they're full of confidence at home, we will be up there next season. But if the players are going out onto that pitch and they're treading on eggshells because they're worried about getting booed because of the stuff that's happening behind the scenes, then we're not going to go anywhere. So that's why you've sort of probably interviewed me, I'd say maybe like three weeks too early. I think if you chatted to me in 3 weeks' time, I'd be a lot.
You'd be like, we'll fight them on the beaches. You'd be like,
where's it? Hang on, I'll show you this. I'll be getting these hats on again.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Get the sailors' hats on again. That's where we're at, mate. It's concerning at the minute, but at the same time, I'm kind of excited for the season to start.
Yeah, absolutely. They need you in the dressing room, I think, before the first game of the season.
I'm not sure they do, because I'd go a bit too ballistic on them, I tell you.
Yeah. So talk to me about Przemysław Placheta, because he's a sort of a left. I don't know if I've got the pronunciation.
No, it's great. No, I can't. Honestly, I'm not laughing at that. No one can pronounce his name. I just call him PP.
PP, okay.
It's just a lot easier, isn't it? PP is a huge concern. No, he is, and I want to believe it's going to work and that it's going to come good, but I don't think it's going to happen. I am concerned on many levels. He actually headbutted someone at Barnet in pre-season.
Yeah, really.
So he's clearly got a bit of fire in his belly. It's just. Do you know what was more concerning about the PP situation? Stuart Webber did a pardon the pun, a webinar the other week. I think it was last week, and he dropped a big hint that I think it was about scouting, this webinar. And he was saying how, you could have all of the stats and the data, and, you can know everything about a player's attributes and what they're going to do on the pitch. But what you can't measure is their footballing intelligence and how they take instructions on board. It's very tough to get right. And, all of the sort of the 1+1s equaled PP, because fans had sort of worked it out that was the case. And so that's the concern for him. He had a loan move to Birmingham.
Yeah, do you know, I thought he played quite well for us up until his injury. I thought that was unfortunate. I thought he did well.
Don't take it the wrong way, mate, but Birmingham.
Your face, Chris.
Mate.
It was like the most condescending.
It's not good. It's not good.
We finished 4 places below you last season, mate.
Well, exactly.
You look at me like that, Chris.
No. Look, I admire Birmingham as a football club because Birmingham make me laugh because it's like in a single season, they can be going for promotion via the playoffs. They can be rock bottom of the league. They can be going into financial administration. But whatever happens, Birmingham are Birmingham. They will end up mid-table every single season. That's just what happens. And so, yeah, I think with all the love and respect in the world, if you're excited by PP playing on loan for Birmingham, that is an indicator of where Birmingham are at. I'm sorry.
Tony Springett had loan spell at Derby last season. He's quite a quick wide player. I think Paul Warne spoke quite highly of his character. So is he someone that could sort of lift the place a little bit?
I don't think so. I think he's a good season, 2 seasons away, to be honest with you. I don't think he's someone that's going to make a massive difference on the pitch for Norwich City next season. But I do believe that there's a player in there. I was very, very happy that he got his move to Derby, and I've spoken to a few Derby fans who can see his potential, so that's good. But yeah, no, look, again, it's one of those ones where it's one for the future. It's one for the future. And actually, he is a player that I would really like to get a loan move this season. Maybe Birmingham will take him. Maybe you'll love him.
Shut up.
But no, on a serious note, Tony, I am a fan of Tony Springett. I actually am a fan of Tony Springett, and I do think he'll come good.
Hey, I'll tell you what, I'm going to start telling you about Ipswich and how they're coming up.
No, well, this is it. You keep teasing me about Ipswich, so I'm going to keep teasing you about
So I'll tell you what, talking of players coming through, one I am quite excited about is Liam Gibbs. I think he can be quite a metronomic influence in midfield. He reminds me a little bit of a lad called Aaron Moy, who David Wagner had at Huddersfield a few years back. I feel like he can do quite a similar job in the middle of the park, and hopefully in his second season he could come good, couldn't he?
Big fan of Liam Gibbs. Big fan of Liam Gibbs. Full of energy, and I mean that like times 25. Like, the guy just does not stop running. He's got such a wise head on his shoulders for such a young man. I think it's the passing side of his game that can be improved from what I remember last season. But we have to remember that, you know, Liam Gibbs was really thrown in there. And I say that with all the respect in the world, like he was thrown in there, and for him to do what he did was impressive. He got his first goal for the club, and he impressed a lot of the Norwich City fans. Don't get me wrong, when the season started going wrong, of course, he was criticised like everyone else, but
he's not a headless chicken though, Chris, to
no,
my eyes. I feel like he can pick a pass, but maybe he's not got a huge vision. It's not like he's going to ping it loads of diagonals to flank, but I feel like he can kind of keep things ticking over.
Yeah, do you know, I actually think he's a B-Tech Oliver Skipp.
Interesting.
I really do. I don't get me wrong, I'm not saying he's as good as Ollie Skipp, of course, but I've seen Oliver Skipp for Norwich. I've seen Liam Gibbs for Norwich, and I watched them both and how they get about the park. They've got some very similar traits. It's just that Liam Gibbs is a much more raw version of that. But interestingly enough, the best games last season that Liam Gibbs played was actually further forwards in midfield, which I was completely surprised about.
That surprised me, actually.
But honestly, he's definitely one that I'm very happy decided to leave the blue and white shite and join the mighty yellow and green.
Well, hopefully he can really kick on from that. So what will be the excitement factor for Norwich season in terms of Marcelino Nunes? Because I think we touched on him earlier. I felt like the first half of the last season he showed some promise and was probably one of your best players at that point. And then I think from around November onwards his form seemed to tail off. But hopefully Wagner can pick that up again. Hopefully.
Yeah, I think so. I think I'm actually in the minority actually on Marcelino Nunes when I say I'm really excited about his future at the football club. I looked at his first few games and you could see why they signed him. Twists, turns, technical. He's got great vision. But the thing is with Nunes, I feel incredibly sorry for him really, because he's moved all the way. Like, people forget about this in football. They're like, oh, they're shit, they're this, they're that. Why aren't they consistent? Blah blah. the bloke's moved from Chile. I think he actually arrived with an injury as well, if I'm right in saying that. And he's had to learn a new language. It's been difficult for him to learn the new language. And I actually would put, you'll know this player. We had a player called Mario Vrancic, who was definitely a slow burner, or I would call them a green banana, where you know it's going to come good. You know it will make a good banana bread one day, but it's not quite ready yet.
I love that analogy, you know.
It needs to ripen a little bit. Okay?
That's one of my favourites. Yeah.
Well, good. You can feel free to steal it. I'll charge you each time you use it. Anyway, I think Mario Vrancic had a season. It wasn't quite ticking, and then all of a sudden, boom. You can really see what he's about and what he does, and he delivers because he's confident.
That free kick at Leeds in the title-winning season and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that Gabriel Sara and Nunes are in the same boat on that, and I think that both will have very positive seasons next season.
Yeah, let's hope that's the case. David Wagner then, Chris, obviously done an incredible thing at Huddersfield Town, but that is going back a few years ago when he got them up via the playoffs into the Premier League and then kept them up there for a season. You're talking 6 years ago now since his biggest achievement, and since then I think it's fair for me to say he hasn't had things his own way, and probably wouldn't have got the Norwich job if it weren't for his relationship with Stuart Webber. But we've seen what he can do in the past. We've seen he's someone who can galvanise people. How are you feeling about him as Norwich City manager?
Well, I think you summarised it very well. I will not pull any punches by saying that David Wagner is in a very, very fragile situation because he is obviously Stuart Webber's mate. Stuart Webber is leaving. His record currently sits at 1 win in 11 games. I know that was last season, but that is a very, very sackable offence. However, I've heard what he's like behind the scenes, what he's doing with the group. We've been told at a recent fan forum about his pre-seasons, about his training regimes. We've heard this through a couple of sources. And El Hernandez said the other day that he honestly thought he was going to die, which is good. I wanted to hear that. Christoph Zimmerman came on our podcast, and I asked him, what was the difference between Daniel Farke and David Wagner with regards to the training? He said, well, actually, David Wagner's training is so much more intense. Daniel Farke's was longer, but David Wagner's was so much more intense. And I think that's a real positive thing because you don't want it to be Dean Smith's slack, but you don't want it to be Daniel Farke's to the point where people are getting injuries. You want it to be short and long enough, but also intense. And I'm really happy with that. I've had the pleasure of meeting him on a couple of occasions. Obviously, we've had him on our podcast. I met him at the fans forum, and I really like him. And I know that football fans will be like, yeah, but why does that matter? I just think, I think it is important to buy into the guy that you want to do well, right? And we never had that connection with Dean Smith. I can feel that David Wagner really wants to be involved in this local community. He wants to make a difference. He's so proud to manage our football club. And the players really, really like him. So I want it to work, but I want to make it clear also that it's a very, very fragile situation. Norwich City need to hit the ground running next season. If not, David Wagner's job is in a position where he might have it taken out of his hands. But I like him. I like what he's about. I like what he wants to do. But the problem that he's got, like every other Norwich City manager, is he needs the tools and resources to go and implement his style of play. We've had a mishmash of players that he's been given, and don't get me wrong, he should have done much, much better last season in terms of getting the most out of those players. But I do just hand on heart believe that we were at an end of a cycle, and I don't think it would have mattered who was the gaffer last season. If Stuart Webber's running his mouth in the press and the players are fed up or whatever, you can't do much about it really. We saw in his first few games, we took Coventry to the carpet cleaners. Obviously they were one of the most impressive sides in the league, and that was at their gaff as well. There was another one as well before that, which I've forgotten now. But there was a couple of convincing wins where I thought, I like that.
Preston, I think Preston was the first game, wasn't it?
And we also beat as well, which is where I got my hopes up and we had our sailors hats on. We beat Millwall away from home. And that was at the point where we absolutely had the playoffs in our hands if we wanted it, and we bottled it. So I can feel that David Wagner can get the best out of these players. I just think he needs to have the support, both in terms of the fans and also the financial support to go and buy the players he wants to implement the style that he can play.
Yeah, well, hopefully Wagner can get his wand out again.
Yeah, absolutely. Wagner's wand on Wembley Way, as I've been saying.
Absolutely, yeah. That's next season rather than last one. So, Chris, as always on this podcast, I ask my guests what would be two questions: one positive question and one negative one. I've got to make my 1 to 24 predictions in a few weeks. What would be the reason for me to be maybe a little bit positive about Norwich and say they could challenge for the top 6?
Mate, don't bother. I can't think of a single. I don't believe it. Maybe if I was to play along with you a little bit and say why we'd get in the top 6, I'd say because Borja Sainz is going to be the next Emi Buendia. Gabriel Sara is going to be playing for the Brazilian national team by the end of the season. Marcelino Nunes is going to look like the next Messi. PP is going to turn into an incredible player. But the reality is that is not going to happen. I'm so sorry. So if I was to say where would you place Norwich City next season, I would say whack us right in the middle of the table, one place above Birmingham.
Cheers, mate. And the reason to think Norwich could be in trouble next season and maybe even get dragged into a bit of a dogfight?
Because we've got a sporting director that is possibly going to go to Leeds. We haven't managed to sign enough personnel to make a difference because the fans are at a point where they need to see progress fast. And if we don't have a fast start, we're going to go down the toilet because the young players that are coming through aren't actually good enough at the moment, which we've analysed in this conversation. I could go on. And I would say with, mid-table, slightly below mid-table. But do you know what? I hope I'm wrong. I hope this is like the worst interview I do all season, and everyone laughs at me about how negative I am. But I honestly think at the moment, I look at us in almost every single position on and off the pitch, and I think, oof, it just stinks of mid-table. It really does.
Well, we'll see. What are your plans for Talk Norwich City for next season then, Chris?
Well, we will be doing what we always do. We will be doing our weekly podcasts. We will be interviewing some top guests, hopefully. We'll hopefully be. I really hope that one day we can go back to doing some live shows again. They take a lot of organisation, but I really enjoy those. So hopefully doing some live shows. But yeah, just keeping on. Really, it's great fun, and I just hope that we can be bloody positive. That's what I hope for.
Yeah,
that's what I hope for.
Absolutely. Well, fingers crossed for that. Chris, all the best for Norwich City next season and for Talk Norwich City. Thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. Thanks to you for watching at home. This has been the EFL Debate Norwich City Summer Deep Dive with Chris Reeve from Talk Norwich City, and we'll see you again very soon.
On the ball, City!